Hello there, folks. In today's video, we'll be discussing why fighters are really scared of Anthony Joshua. The short answer is because he's just too darn good. But how good is he exactly? And how did he get here? Well, it took a lot, and we mean a lot, of work. So make sure to stay until the end of the video to learn all about it. First, why are fighters really scared of Joshua? Anthony Joshua is a 6'6", 32-year-old British boxer. He has won 2 unified world heavyweight championships and held the WBA, IBF, WBO, and IBO titles twice between 2016 and 2021. His professional boxing record is 27 fights. Does anybody want to guess how many of those the bloke has won? 24. He's won 24 out of 27 fights. We don't want to bore you with statistics or anything, but this shows if you ever enter into a fight with this guy, you only have an 11% chance of winning. That's it. The odds will always be stacked against you. That's one reason to be scared of the guy, and it's not just that. Even if he does perform terribly, he always ends up redeeming himself. For example, in 2019, he faced a terrible defeat against Andy Ruiz Jr. Facing disappointment and despair, he picked himself up again, and in the rematch against Ruiz just a few months later, he emerged victorious. If you do end up beating him, just know it won't last for long. He will come for you. Now, let's discuss Fury versus Joshua. We don't really need to tell you about Tyson Fury. The bloke is pretty well known, but there's something unusual about him. He's never ever fought Anthony Joshua. And let's just say there's speculation that Tyson is scared of the 6'6" heavyweight champ. Again, folks, it's just speculation, but we just recently learned that Tyson Fury merely pretended to want to fight Joshua, also known as AJ. And here's the thing about Fury, he's unbeaten. That's a record even better than AJ's. He knows he can be a massive money machine if he keeps fighting unbeaten for the next 5 years. How does he do that? By staying away from Joshua. Duh! 5 years of easy wins could easily add up to hundreds of millions of dollars for the guy. All he needs to do is stay away from our favorite boxer, and that's not hard, is it? Manipulate the media, trash talk him, just don't agree to a fight with him. But why does AJ scare Fury? Most likely, that's because he's younger, he's more confident, he has more moves, and on top of all that, he has more punch combinations. And the fact of the matter is that Fury is very, very good. He also has the potential to dominate with his physical edge, but he's really weak mentally. He's unfit? Okay, not really, but as compared to AJ, he's definitely unfit. He also has weak discipline and is just not as dedicated. But at the same time, we don't get why he's that afraid, because after all, Joshua hasn't been in proper form lately. If there's any time to try to beat him, it's now. Will we ever see a fight between these two? Stay tuned to find out. Moving on, Klitschko v. Joshua. Then there's his rivalry with Vladimir Klitschko. Klitschko, the 46-year-old Ukrainian boxer, is a credible boxer in his own right. And although the two have only come face-to-face once, the Ukrainian is always compared to Joshua. The reason why the 46-year-old should be afraid of AJ is because of their last encounter. Klitschko was 41 back then. He got up from a 5th-round knockdown to put Joshua on the canvas and hurt him. Maybe if he was young, he could have finished him off, but he couldn't. 5 rounds later, in the 11th round, Joshua ended the fight early. He put Klitschko down twice, and the fight was stopped with the old guy's back against the ropes, taking punches he could not send back. This proves that Joshua can overcome any kind of adversity, and that's why one of the greatest boxers is always afraid of him. And it looks like he might just be a little too afraid of him, because right after the famous fight, which averaged a whopping 659,000 views, Klitschko retired. His fight with AJ became his last fight ever. Maybe he just realized he was too old for all of this and decided to retire before falling down further. Finishing up his rivalries, Ruiz v. Joshua. Now, this is where it starts getting interesting. We know you all have been waiting to see why Andy Ruiz is scared of Joshua. He did beat him after all, so why is he afraid? Let's find out. It all started with their first fight. Joshua was actually supposed to be fighting Uriel Miller. Miller failed not 1, not 2, but 3 drug tests. Hence, he had to be replaced with Andy. Andy came in as an underdog who was expected to lose, but then what ended up happening? Ruiz Jr. won. He won the match because of a technical knockout in the 7th round. This particular fight is still considered one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. But then, that didn't last for too long now, did it? Because just a few months after that, Joshua got his rematch against Ruiz. The fight took place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, because Ruiz refused to fight in the UK following Dillian Whyte's failed drug tests. At the event, AJ finally reclaimed his heavyweight titles after defeating him via a unanimous decision. There you have it, guys. You can beat Joshua. You can, but he's definitely coming back for you. However, he's scared of Oleksandr Usyk, Usyk because he's still not been able to beat the guy. Maybe in the future he will? Well, we don't know yet, but let's talk about it. But he's also scared of some folks. We get it, of course, he's the best of the best. But when you're riding that high, you have a lot to lose. People are just waiting for you to lose to someone so they can parade around telling folks you're not that good anyways. And that's exactly why Anthony Joshua is also scared of some people. The 32-year-old also stated that his biggest fear is being taken before his time. He has acknowledged the dangers of his profession. Consequently, he plays it a little safe. But his risk-averse behavior doesn't always translate to good boxing. That's because he needs to be aggressive and proactive when it comes to the sport. That's exactly what we saw in his fight against Oleksandr Usyk, the two-weight class world champion. Consequently, he lost both of those fights. After his most recent loss, he disappeared for a bit, then returned again. The Briton was facing a range of emotions, which kept getting the better of him. He took the microphone, and it seemed like he was going to have an extremely angry exchange of words with the Ukrainian fighter. But then, in front of 10,000 folks, he delivered a monologue. He stated, "If you knew my story, you would understand the passion. I ain't no amateur boxer from 5 years old. That was an elite prospect from youth. I was going to jail. I got bail, and I started training hard, and I wanted to be able to fight." After all, he's human. He's scared. He's passionate. And just like everyone else, he gets upset. But despite all that, as we mentioned in the video, folks are still scared of him. Will people continue to be scared of him? Don't worry. We'll get to his future prospects at the end of the video. For now, let's talk about what makes him great. So, how did he get good? Everything we've mentioned so far points to the fact that everyone is scared of him because he's just too darn good. But of course, you knew that. We knew that. That's why we mentioned this at the start of the video. But how did he get to be this good? Even though he only started boxing at the age of 18? It's simple. It's because of his top grade and consistent strength training, conditioning, and sparring. At the same time, the bloke is always working really hard to improve his boxing skills. And yes, he started at only 18, but he's now 32. That's 14 years of hard work and consistency. That simply makes him good, and that simply makes others afraid of him. But now, let's talk about if he's going to continue being this good. Finishing up, what does his future look like? After the fight with Oleksandr Usyk, many were wondering what Joshua would do or say, but he made it clear that he's here to stay and that he's going to continue to fight. He even stated that he'd like to enter more fights before the end of 2022. This just goes to show that he's not backing down. As he trains and retrains, he's most probably going to come back stronger than ever. So if you're a boxer, take a lesson from all the other guys and be afraid of him. Well, that's all we have for you guys today. Do you folks like Joshua as much as we do? Or do y'all think he's overrated? Let us know all your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and see you guys next time. Bye!